We have just watched one of the most insane, the most brutal, absolute cataclysmic downfalls that we have ever seen within the streaming sphere. I don't even think the internet turned on pirate software this fast. The meteoric crash of VShojo is going to go down in the history books as one of the worst, most mismanaged organizations in the streaming space ever. Since the recent information that dropped from Iron Mouse and a bunch of creators leaving the organization, there has been new details that have dropped which have finally culminated in a message and response from the CEO of VShojo, from Justin Gunrun himself. But before we get into the recent information and what's gone on, first, a word from this video sponsor. I don't know about you, but I'm chronically online at this point. And so when I'm on there, I want my experience not to suck. And so that's why I use Opera GX. Now, I've been using Opera GX myself for months now, and so when they reached out wanting to sponsor a video, it was a no-brainer for me to take it. Opera GX has always had some great customization and performance features, but now with the GX mods, it has gone even further. Opera GX is packed with immersive features from background music, keyboard sound effects, tab sounds, and more, so it feels tactile and not like another bland generic browser. You can customize the splash screen to your favorite anime and icons to match, including the icon on your taskbar. Personally, I've been vibing with the Special Operations Section 6 theme from Zenless Zone Zero, but recently I also like the anime theme. Click the link in the description and try out Opera GX and GX mods today and make internet browsing not suck. So I'm talking about the Iron Mouse VShojo situation. Now, if you're interested about kind of the beginning of this and what happened at the start of it, what kind of was the first domino to fall that caused the chain reaction to the ultimate downfall of VShojo, I would suggest you check out my previous video covering the subject, because I really give an in-depth look at the full situation and what brought the company to that point. But now I want to talk about what's happened since then, because it's been 2 days since that video, guys, and there has been an absolute onslaught of information. And of course, we finally got word from VShojo's CEO themselves. Everybody basically came out of the woodwork and finally started to talk about it. Some of the notable ones were Nianners covering the situation, as well as Shy Lily coming out to talk about her perspective. Now, Shy Lily brought a fairly unique perspective to the whole situation because she's someone who is actually on the outside, not covered by NDA, but did have the privilege of going over a VShojo contract, as she did previously apply to be part of VShojo. And in that video where she goes over all the information, she talks about some of the really predatory monetization that they were adding into the contract, even for things that they had no say in getting. Now, if you're not familiar with the content creation space or the agency space where somebody is getting you sponsorships or you're in some level of partnership, it is not uncommon for them to take some percentage cut of whatever deals that they bring to you. The industry standard is around 15%, but of course it can range anywhere from kind of 10 to 30% as still fairly normal. It depends very much on the creator and the person coming into the agreement and at what stage of their career that they're currently at. Of course, people who are going to be able to pull in more money faster are going to be able to get and negotiate smaller percentage cuts, but if you're a newer creator and they're taking more of a gamble on you, of course they're going to want to make their money back faster and probably take a higher percentage cut. That part's not weird. What is weird is VShojo walking into Shy Lily asking for 50% cuts on basically everything. The only exception that she listed off was her Twitch dashboard. She said there was nothing really there that VShojo was going to be dipping into directly, but when it came to any other contracts, sponsorships, or anything along those lines, they wanted a cut of that, including her ownership and stake in GamerSupps, which she's a co-owner of. Even though they had nothing to do with GamerSupps, nothing to do with any of these sponsorships, deals, or agreements, they originally walked in trying to take a 50% cut of any kind of deals or sponsorships negotiated there, even though they had nothing to do with it, which is absolutely insane to me, but that's something that they tried to walk out with. Now, of course, we can kind of hand wave a lot of that away to say, well, no, it was just a boilerplate contract. Of course, they could negotiate that, which Shy Lily was, and she did talk about a lot of the changes that they were making. But that doesn't change the fact that the boilerplate contract that they walked in with was something that was extremely predatory for Shy Lily. And just fortunately, she's extremely business savvy and had a good lawyer on her side, bringing her into those negotiations. So even though she didn't ultimately end up taking it, she was able to negotiate a lot of those things out. But that gives us a glimpse into what a lot of the other creators we're potentially dealing with, because there's a lot of people who are not lawyers. We're not privy to what our rights are as creators. And so the kind of exploitation that was going on behind the scenes was crazy. Now, some of the other recent updates from some of the other talent is a lot of other talent came forward saying that they were not getting paid, including, and the most notable in addition to Iron Mouse, being Kason, who also was being held out on even by VShojo JP, albeit with claims from the CEO saying that they could have paid her anyway. This led her to ultimately just quitting live on stream, which was kind of a hilarious clip to watch if you haven't seen it.
出ていこうかな。入ってきたおかな。I quit VShojo today.
はい。
VShojo 辞めます、今日。
はい。
はい。31日予定でしたけど、今日辞めます。
One of the other unfortunate things that came about in this whole situation was word from creators like Vebe and Yanners talking about how many of the creators who initially left VShojo were put under NDA from being able to talk about the whole situation. And then after silencing the creators that left, they then told the creators who stayed a different story, basically painting them as greedy creators who wanted more than they were worth, and so that they ultimately chose to leave the company, when that wasn't the case at all. It was similar issues happening years prior, but they managed to isolate them and cut them off from the other talent, ultimately creating a big divide between a lot of friends who are part of this organization. But ultimately, all of those reveals bring us to the final public letter and the death note from Justin Gunrun himself. In his public letter, he writes, VShojo has failed, and I've mismanaged the company into the situation you're all witnessing. So today I am sharing the difficult news that VShojo is shutting down, and I take full responsibility for the decision that led us to this point. I've been doing everything I can to fundraise and right the ship these past few months, but despite my efforts, we are in a worse position, and those I care about are now paying the price. Over the past few years, we raised around 11 million to pursue a bold talent-first approach in VTubing. Yeah, super talent-first from the recent information that's come out for sure. Prioritizing creators and community over short-term profits. Yeah, I think kind of stealing $500,000 that was given to charity isn't really not taking a short-term approach, because that kind of is what sank you. To achieve long-term sustainability, our funding went directly to our creators through generous splits, debut investments, infrastructure, concerts, events, and staffing, all designed to support them. Which, don't get me wrong, those are all really cool things and supportive things for being part of an org. But if it comes at the expense of the org itself, and now stealing money from charity, not that worth it. However, despite all of our efforts, the business failed to generate the revenue we needed to sustain that model, and eventually, we ran out of money. Additionally, I acknowledge that some of the money spent by the company was raised in connection with talent activity, which I later learned was intended for a charitable initiative. What he's basically saying there is, he had zero clue that that $500,000 that came in from Iron Mouse's subathon, was, they didn't know, so they spent it, they got rid of it. At the time, we were working hard to raise additional investment capital to cover our costs, and I firmly believed, based on the information available to us, that we would be able to do so and cover all expenses. Oh, sorry, actually, it's even worse. What he's saying instead is, okay, we did spend the charity money, but it's because we thought we could raise the funds later to kind of like make up the costs. So they're kind of stealing from Peter to pay Paul. Great strategy. We were unsuccessful in our fundraising efforts, no shit. I made the decision to pursue funding, and I own its consequences. I'm deeply sorry to all the talent, staff, friends, and community members who believed in our brand. You did not deserve this. Justin Gunrun. Yeah, that's for damn sure. Look, here's the deal. None of this situation is good. So much about this situation is just absolutely disgusting. The amount that is being stolen from the talent. Like, I'm a creator myself, and I want to continue to push this, to be able to do this more often. I do this as a side thing right now. And so I want people and creators to be paid fairly for what they're worth and the value that they're bringing to these organizations. So anytime that I see a situation of a company basically scamming the creators, especially when you paint yourself as a talent-first agency, yeah, you're gonna look like shit. And the one part that makes it even worse, like that's already gross. Stealing from creators is already gross, but to make it worse, over $500,000 for charity you spent to cover your costs because you thought you could raise the funds through venture capital. Because if you don't understand this from the business perspective, when they're looking at raising funds, it means they're trying to sell off parts of the organization to venture capitalist organizations, or the companies wanting to invest into it in the long term, which means he was failing to do so at every stage. And they still spent that money trying to cover their costs, and now all that money fundraised is just gone. It's just absolutely gone. There's two silver linings to this situation. The first one is that VShojo is done. There is absolutely no way for VShojo to recover from this situation. I truly do think that just independent content creation is the way forward for a lot of other VTubers and just creators in the space in general. I brought up briefly some other independent VTubers that I know, like in Captain Cabinets or Maddie Chu, like other VTubers that I know, that you don't need to be part of one of these big organizations to make your success happen. You can build your own community, you can build your own space, and you can bring about success as a result. But there's one other thing here that I think is one of the coolest things that we've seen to come out of this whole situation. As of the time of recording, Iron Mouse attempting to recoup a lot of the money lost from their fundraising, posted it for 10,000, has now crossed $1.2 million. This was just posted like 3 days ago. So in a matter of 3 days, this whole situation, the downfall of VShojo has led to one of the fastest fundraising events that I think I have ever seen. Please let me know in the comments down below if you know of another situation that was faster than this. But to cross $1.2 million in like 3 days is insane. And so huge shout out to Iron Mouse for putting this on in the midst of this whole situation. Look, I know she's going to be okay in this circumstance. She's got enough success, she's got enough support, and a really loyal fan base that we all know Iron Mouse is going to be fine. I'm sure the other creators will be too. They've all managed to distance themselves, and I don't think any of the creators themselves have taken any kind of splash damage. They're all painted as victims here, which they are. So I think they're all going to be just fine. But VShojo, any leadership part of VShojo, they're absolutely cooked in this situation. But this is such an exciting piece to see, and is truly, it warms my heart. Every now and then the internet can come together to accomplish something great, and this is one of those circumstances in which they did. So shout out to everybody who managed to go in there to donate to support this effort. That's fantastic. I think to round off this video, we should talk about a few of the absolutely hilarious Twitter messages that managed to come out of this situation. And the first one, Tectone Lamau, fuck y'all. Yeah, that sounds like Tectone. From my friend, good old friend, Captain Cabinets. You cannot claim ignorance when one of your biggest talents raised $500,000 for charity. You knew it was for charity. What is this bold-faced lie of ignorance? Don't pretend you didn't know after the fact. I don't think it's a bold-faced lie. I think based on what the message was is they knew it was for charity and they used it thinking they would be able to fundraise the money to have it eventually sent over, but they failed to do so. So I don't think it's a lie necessarily. Braxophone, of course, Brax Montelli, obsessed with Carlotta. Bro stole funds from charity and peaced out. Surely more awful things won't be exposed when the NDAs dissolve over the next few weeks. Asmongold or Zach Rar. So what about the $500,000 for charity money? Is that going to be donated still, or is there something that needs to be investigated? Not to mention all the unpaid talent fees. This video would be 30 minutes long if I went through and read every single response, but it's fair enough to say that a lot of the creators are really upset by this message. Of course, Zentrea came out with some additional information talking about the dodging of direct messages to the CEO. Shy Lily came back and bounced off another few responses to the situation, absolutely adding fuel to the fire. Henya herself also came in with another response to the whole situation. And I gotta be honest, guys, the more that I read these messages, honestly, the sadder I kind of get about the whole situation, and realizing that, like, remember, this is real people behind this organization. These are real people behind these avatars, and so it really sucks to see what they've been going through. And then, of course, to round us off here with Iron Mouse, you broke my heart, my spirit, and my trust. That one, to be honest, is the saddest one. Now, I doubt this saga is over. This is such an insane downfall with a lot of money that's been misappropriated that there's likely to be some more legal ramifications as a result after this. Who's this going to ultimately fall to? I don't know. It's really hard when you're talking about a corporation like this. Is it going to fall to the owners of the corporation? Is it going to fall on Justin Gunrun as the CEO managing this? I think there's going to need to be some kind of investigation to go on to the funds themselves, because I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like when there's money given for the purpose of it being sent over to a charity, but then a corporation takes the donated funds and spends them in other areas, I feel like there's some kind of legal ramification that's going to take place from that. That seems like fraud. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but definitely something that's going to happen. NDAs are continuing to fall off from the talent who are around. And I'm sure as more of those NDAs come clear, we're going to get more and more information from behind the scenes, what happened. I'm sure more instances of manipulation too. And I will be very much interested to see what happens. I think there should be legal consequences. I think whenever something like this takes place, examples need to be made out of them. And knowing how many horrible things have happened with other orgs in the past, this cannot go untouched. But that's going to be it for this one, everybody. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you appreciated the content, and we'll see you next time.